Hi everyone, welcome to our Better Sleep workshop presented today by Good Shepherd's Education and Wellness Department. My name is Jessica Rieker. I am the Community Health Educator here at Good Shepherd, and I'm also a registered nurse. So we are going to jump right in here. I kind of went through some of the directions and things with the meeting, so if you have any questions, please just unmute yourself and ask questions, and feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation today. All right, let's get going. Okay. So, Better Sleep Workshop. So again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to start today by saying that I am not a doctor, so if you believe you're suffering from a sleep disorder or have any other underlying condition, please speak with your doctor, physician, provider, anything like that. They can get you the help you need or any kind of sleep test as well. I am a registered nurse, so feel free to ask questions. However, I will not be diagnosing anything here today. So the purpose of this class is to learn about how sleep works, what impacts our sleep, and how we can change our behavior and environment to improve our sleep. So, starting out with a little statistic, this might surprise you or it might not. 1 in 3 Americans don't get enough sleep. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like you? Sounds like me sometimes, maybe not my whole life, but definitely depending on what's going on, and especially right now in the world, yes, for sure. Okay, so why is sleep important? So we're going to start with a little bit about sleep, why it's important for our body, how it affects us. The entire body is impacted by sleep, so this includes your immune system, blood pressure, and your mood. So our bodies need sleep to help with forming memories, clearing out waste. It works to clear itself of toxic byproducts that naturally accumulate throughout our day. So many neurological diseases are actually associated with a lack of sleep. Perhaps that when you don't get enough sleep, your brain doesn't have that chance to clean itself. So the clearing out waste is an important aspect. Muscle and tissue growth and repair. So while you sleep, your body releases growth hormones that work to rebuild muscles and joints that may have been stressed out during the day. So the more sleep you get, the better equipped your body is to repair itself. Cooling down. One of the main functions of sleep is to conserve energy. Your body temp lowers by as much as 10% when you're sleeping. That's crazy. First time I heard that, I was 10%. That's a lot. Breathing slowly, reducing your heart rate. So your heart works really hard during the day, whether you're working out or not. It just works hard just to get you through the day. So at night when you sleep, it takes some pressure off itself by reducing heart rate and your blood pressure as well. And then hormone productions as well. So that's again clearing out that waste and working on that muscle and tissue growth. So health benefits of sleep include stronger immune system, lower risk for diabetes and other serious health problems, reduced stress levels, improved cognitive function, improved mood, and reduced risk of accidents or safety incidents. Okay, so people who don't get enough sleep have a higher risk of diabetes, stroke, obesity, depression, and cardiovascular disease. Does that sound about right to everyone? Have you heard that before? So sleep and stress are very intertwined as well. So I've held stress management courses before, and that class and this class are both very similar in that stress also can lead to these things, higher risk of diabetes, stroke, obesity, depression. And sleep and stress are kind of in this cycle. You know, if you're stressed out, you're going to have trouble sleeping. If you have trouble sleeping, it's going to lead you to more stress. So it's kind of this cycle. It's hard to break that cycle, but we'll go over some tips here. But stress management is a big part of that as well. So if you notice, we'll talk about sleep diaries and keeping a list of things that happen during the day. That could be something that you notice. If you're stressed out certain days other than others, you might sleep poorer on those days. So we're going to start here by just talking about the process of sleep. I like to go over sleep in general because if we understand the process, we can better understand issues that we're having and how to fix those issues. So we're going to talk about a few things here. So our sleep cycles are regulated by our sleep drive, which is our need to sleep based on our time that we're awake, and our circadian rhythm. So that's our body's 24-hour cycle, which is impacted and driven by light. The light that we take in, whether it's light from the sun or artificial light, those both can affect that circadian rhythm. Our sleep drive can be impacted by the hormone melatonin. This is what produces a feeling of sleepiness. It's impacted by our brain's reaction to light exposure. So this is why dark rooms can make us feel sleepy and why it's important for sleep hygiene that we make our bedrooms as dark as possible and limit the bright light of our electronics before we go to bed. Our circadian rhythm can also be influenced by meal timing. So this means skipping breakfast or eating a late night big meal may impact your sleep. And our sleep cycles fall into two categories: REM sleep and non-REM sleep. So we have stages 1 through 4. We'll go into these in a little bit more detail just so you understand them. But both categories of sleep are important for overall health. So many people assume that REM sleep that's when our dreaming occurs, and they think that that's the most important part of our cycle. But really, each stage in the sleeping process has a purpose, and the most rejuvenating sleep occurs in stages 3 and 4. So that is part of REM, but stage 3 is before we go into REM. So we'll go into that here a little bit more. So I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on this, but it is interesting to understand these stages a little bit. And it's interesting that stage 1, for example, to 10 minutes. So stage 1 is non-REM, and within minutes or even seconds of you falling asleep, your brain produces alpha and theta waves and your eye movements slow down. So this is a brief cycle, like we said, 5 to 10 minutes, and you're in a very light stage of sleep, which means you're somewhat alert. You can be easily woken up. And this is, if you ever have a cat nap or experience anything like that, this is usually stage 1. You usually don't get past stage 1, like when you drift off at your desk or something like that. This is usually stage 1. Next stage is stage 2. This is also a fairly light stage, and your brain produces sudden increases in brainwave frequency known as sleep spindles, and your brain waves then slow down. This lasts approximately 20 minutes, and if you were to schedule a power nap, this is when you'd want to wake up after this stage of sleep before you go into that deeper sleep. So if you add up stage 1 and stage 2, that's going to be a max of 30 minutes for what we would call a power nap. So stages 3 and 4, we'll talk about REM as well. Stage 3, this is the stage beginning of deep sleep. So this is when our brain begins producing slower delta waves. You won't have any eye movements or muscle activity, but it's harder for you to be awakened. Your body becomes less responsive to outside stimuli, and your brain produces even more delta waves as you go deeper into your sleep. You're in a more restorative stage of sleep, and it's difficult to wake you up during this stage. So this is when the body repairs muscles and tissues, stimulates growth and development, boosts your immune function, and builds up your energy for the next day. And then your REM sleep, this is usually about 90 minutes after you fall asleep, and each REM stage can last up to an hour. So an average adult has about 5 to 6 REM cycles each night, and this is the final phase of sleep. Your brain becomes more active. This is when most of your dreaming occurs, and your eyes jerk quickly in all different directions. So that's what REM sleep stands for, is rapid eye movement sleep. So that's what it's named after. Your heart rate and blood pressure will increase a little, and your breathing will become faster, irregular, and shallow. But it's still working on that, on your brain repair and muscle repair, things like that. So it's important to note, though, that these phases last for different durations at various ages throughout one's lifetime. An infant sleep cycle will look very different than that of an adult or elderly individual. On an average night, you move through these stages in sequential fashion. Most non-REM sleep occurs early in the night, and the length of REM periods increase as the night goes on. So there's a good chance that you'll awake from a dream in the morning, and Hopefully it'll be a good dream. But that's why you wake up during that REM cycle at the end. And as your night goes on, those REM cycles get longer. So you wake up during that, and that's when you remember your dream. So lastly, I have a video for us to watch. I believe it's about 5 minutes or so about sleep and how it affects our body and things. And then we are going to go into common sleep issues and ways to fix things. So I am going to click on this here. Please let me know if there are any concerns with sound. Are you all able to hear this?
I'm having difficulty hearing it.
Okay. Thank you.
Every night, almost everyone on the planet enters into a state of unconsciousness and paralysis. But what is really happening inside the body when we drift off? And what's the impact if we don't get enough sleep? Sleep is regulated by your circadian rhythm, or body clock, located in the brain. The body clock responds to light cues, ramping up production of the hormone melatonin at night and switching it off when it senses light. There are 4 stages of sleep that the body experiences and cycles throughout the night. On a good night, we cycle through these stages 4 or 5 times. Stages 1 and 2 are light sleep. This is the transition from being awake to falling asleep. Heart rate and breathing begin to slow, body temperature falls, and muscles may twitch. Stage 3 is sometimes referred to as delta sleep because of the slow delta brainwaves that are released during this stage. This is the first stage of deep sleep, where our cells produce the most growth hormone to service bones and muscles, allowing the body to repair itself. Stage 4 is where we begin to dream. The body creates chemicals that render it temporarily paralyzed, so that we do not act out our dreams. In this stage, the brain is extremely active, and our eyes, although closed, dart back and forth as if we were awake. Humans roughly spend 1/3 of their lives asleep. Modern lifestyles, stress, and the proliferation of technology mean that people are sleeping far less today than they were a century ago. Sleeping less than 7 hours per day is associated with an increased risk of developing chronic conditions, which could reduce life expectancy. So for a healthier, longer life, get some shut-eye.
Okay. See if I can get back to here. So I just thought that video was really interesting. That's why I included that in here. I like that it talks about during phase 4, when we're dreaming, our body releases chemicals so that we don't act out what we're dreaming. That's something I never thought about. That would be horrible, right, if we all started walking in our sleep. So anyway, hopefully you learn a little bit about sleep in general. You probably know some of those things already. Hopefully you learned something new. So we are going to go into some common sleep disorders. So these are the most common sleep disorders. However, just because they're common sleep disorders, they are not common. So some of these are not. So our first one, for example, insomnia, that is a fairly common sleep disorder or disorder in general. However, our last one we'll talk about, narcolepsy, is extremely rare. So keep that in mind. So it's important to speak with the doctor if you believe you suffer from any of these conditions. Sometimes a sleep-related symptom can indicate an underlying disease. So you don't want to just say, oh, well, I've had insomnia, that's all I've ever had, and for years and years and years. And it could be, but if you've never talked to your doctor about it, it could be something else as well. So important to pay attention and do things like a sleep diary, like we're going to talk about. So insomnia is trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up early. If you sleep better when you're not in your own bed, you may have a form of conditioned or learned insomnia from sleeping in the same environment. It is possible to treat insomnia with sedatives, antidepressants, and cognitive behavioral therapy. And your doctor would let you know what the best way is and how to treat you as an individual. Next up, we have sleep apnea. If you have sleep apnea, you will feel excessively tired in the daytime, and a big indicator is nighttime snoring or gasping. So this is when you actually stop breathing for short periods of time. It can have things to do with your anatomy, the way your throat, your chin, your mouth are. It can have to do with weight and other chronic conditions. There's a lot of different things that can lead to sleep apnea. There are several potential causes, and if you do have an issue with this, or if your partner says you're gasping, or if you've been known to be a snorer, something you might want to look into if you feel excessively tired during the day. Restless leg syndrome, condition that causes uncontrollable urge to move your legs, usually because of an uncomfortable sensation. So there's just something uncomfortable, and when you move, it helps ease that temporarily. So this typically happens in the evening or nighttime hours when you're sitting or lying down. And that can be treated as well, therapy and medications and things. So again, talk to your doctor if you think that's an issue for you. And narcolepsy. So we've seen narcolepsy in movies and comedy sketches and things like that, but it's definitely not a funny disorder. It's actually a very stressful thing for people. Fortunately, it's very rare to find someone with narcolepsy. There are a few different types of narcolepsy, but this is a chronic sleep disorder that causes overwhelming daytime drowsiness. This can cause sudden attacks of sleep, so someone will just fall asleep, sudden loss of muscle tone, or hallucinations as well, usually negative hallucinations. So that's another downfall of this. So again, very rare, but these are the common sleep disorders, most commonly found. So some of these conditions may interrupt a sleep phase or prevent you from getting deep sleep altogether. So that's why it's important to address these, and if you think you have any issues, talk to your provider. So how do we find the problem? If we think we have a problem, we're just not feeling rested in the morning, you wake up constantly during the night, how do we fix that? So the most common way to do this is a sleep diary. So this is an example of a sleep diary found from the CDC. It is available online through the CDC or the American Academy of Sleep Medicine website. So by logging your routine on something like this can help you discover behavioral patterns that you can change. So for example, on here, you would put what time you go to bed, you'd put the day, what time you go to bed, how long it took you to fall asleep. So some of these are going to be guesses, right? Because you're not going to be sitting there in bed writing, I'm still awake, still awake, still awake, or else you won't be able to go to sleep. Time you woke up, time you actually got out of bed, so tracking that time that you're staying in bed, whether or not you napped during the day, whether or not you exercised, drank caffeine and when, drank alcohol and when, and medicine, what kind and what time. So these are all things that are going to affect that. So using this tool, you can track your days, say, oh, well, I had caffeine at 4 o'clock, maybe that's too late. Or the days I exercised, I think I slept better. So things like that. These are the important things to include. So it doesn't have to look exactly like that. You can use whatever form you'd like. Another example, this is an updated form from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. And you can see on the instructions here, it says write the day of the week, and the type of day. So whether you were working, if you were home, if you're on vacation, those are all going to affect different things, especially where you're sleeping. Like we talked about earlier, that conditioned insomnia, you might sleep better when you're not at home. So for this one, it says to put a C when you have coffee, cola, or tea, an M when you have medicine, A for alcohol, E for exercise. Again, you can mark them however you'd like, whatever stays consistent so that you can track it. And then you can put an I or a line to show when you go to bed, and then shade the boxes when you think you actually fell asleep. So shade in boxes that show when you were asleep at night or when you take a nap during the day. And then if you wake up during the night, you unshade that box. So you can see the top line here. Sure.
Sorry, Jessica. Where did this diary come from again?
This is from the
Academy?
American Academy of Sleep Medicine. That's who created this,
Okay.
But this exact one here I actually found on the CDC's website, and then it linked me to this resource. So they're all kind of using this same resource. Yeah. And I can email it out to you after the class as well if you'd like.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So just for the example here at the top, just real quick, because it took me a little while to figure this out, because it just looks like a bunch of cryptic things here. But the sample entry is on a Monday when I worked. So she wrote Monday and work. I jogged on my lunch break at 1. So she put an E at 1. Had a glass of wine with dinner at 6. So that's the A at 6 p.m. for alcohol. Fell asleep from watching TV 7 to 8. And went to bed at 10:30, but didn't fall asleep until midnight. She put the line at 10, started shading at midnight, woke up at 4, couldn't fall back until 5, and then when she woke up, she had coffee and medicine in the morning. So this will just let you know how things are going, and then it shows week 1 and week 2. So if you like this format, or if you like the previous format that we talked about here, you could do this as well. But this is an important thing to understand. You can't really know what's going on and know the causes, because like we will talk about, you want to treat the cause and not just the symptoms. So we'll talk about that here. Let me get here. Okay, so some strategies to improve sleep. First off, we have routine and environment are very important. So sticking to a schedule and not having wild swings in sleep patterns, especially on the weekends. I know I sleep differently on the weekends than I do during the week, and then my body's constantly out of whack. Keeping your bedroom between 60 and 67 degrees, which is very cool for some of us. Dark and with white noise, like a fan or something like that, can help your body relax and sleep into deep sleep. So some of these things might not work for you. It's very individualized, but those are what has shown to create the best conditions for sleep. So that cooler temperature, dark, and white noise. And comfortable mattresses and pillows and things as well, whatever works best for you. Next up is exercise. So the more we move during the day is going to help us sleep at night. You know, you tire your body out, your body's going to be ready for sleep. So that just helps. Managing your light exposure. So light, like we talked about, regulates your circadian rhythm. So try to get some bright sunlight in the morning and then avoid lights from electronics at night. So even if you're not able to go outside, artificial light will have the same effect. But then at nighttime, try and keep it darker, and those lights coming off of your devices put off some very interesting lights and really stimulate your brain, so that's what you want to stay away from at night. Food, caffeine, alcohol, and cigarettes all impact sleep. So avoid heavy meals for 2 to 3 hours before sleep. Our wellness coordinator here talks about this all the time because I didn't realize how long your body works to digest after you eat a meal. You think, oh, well, and that a lot of times you hear, well, don't eat after 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, but really it's earlier than that. If you're going to go to bed at 10, you shouldn't be eating past probably 6 or 7, ideally, if you're able to, depending on your schedule. but your body works and it's digesting that whole time, so it's harder for your body to fall asleep. And nicotine in cigarettes and caffeine are all stimulants, so those are, of course, going to make it harder to fall asleep. And while alcohol seems to help people to fall asleep, it interrupts our sleep patterns and leads to lower quality of sleep. So a lot of people say, well, a drink helps me fall asleep at night. And while that might be true, you're not sleeping as well or as deeply as you would without it. Next up is don't watch the clock. So try and cover your alarm clock, move your phone to a different room if you can, put your smartwatch to sleep. I know my watch sits next to my bed and it lights up randomly during the night. So all of these things will help you focus on relaxing and calming your mind instead of getting anxious watching the minutes tick by as you stare at your clock or stare at your... Every time I travel and go to a hotel, I have to move the clock or cover it up because they're always huge and digital and they're just so distracting. And try to relax before sleep and get out of bed if you cannot sleep. So again, avoiding technology and trying a relaxing activity like reading or meditation before sleep can help quiet your mind. Staying in bed, though, if you cannot sleep, can actually be counterproductive. So just get up and spend some time reading or meditating in dim light. Again, try not to turn those lights on and throw off your circadian rhythm until you feel more tired and you are ready to try to sleep again. With reading as well, a lot of people ask if it's good to read before bed. Some people it does work for, some it does not. And it really depends on what you're reading as well. If you're reading something really riveting, you're reading a murder mystery or something like that that's going to get you worked up, that's probably not going to be something that's good for you. Other people find it hard to read in bed and then go to sleep as well. So they do recommend having a place for reading and a place for sleeping. So again, individual, if it works for you, if you've been doing it for years, continue doing that. But if you start to have issues or notice anything, those are things you can change and see if they work for you. And keeping a sleep diary to pinpoint problems. So we talked about that. We'll go into more how to use that sleep diary and what exactly those things mean. But that definitely helps. Okay, using a sleep wake time calculator. So this is an online tool. It's basically doing some basic math for you, but you can enter what time you'd like to wake up or what time you'd like to go to bed, and it will calculate what time you should do one of those things. So if you say, I want to wake up at 8 a.m. tomorrow, it will tell you the ideal times for you to go to bed based on normal REM cycles and normal time it takes to fall asleep, things like that. So it'll give you a recommended bedtime and vice versa. You can put in the time you would like to go to bed and then it'll tell you when to wake up to have appropriate sleep cycles as well. Something fun to play with if you think you might have issues. Sleeping with a white noise machine. So we can still hear and process sounds even when we're asleep, especially in those first few stages. So the white noise will help cover up all those little sounds that may distract our brain while we're trying to sleep. So these machines or apps or fans, anything like that that can be used for white noise, can help drown out the day's stress, mask the background noise, and guard those moments right before and after you drift off. So keeping you in a constant mind like that and not having those random things coming in, There are many options to choose from with white noise. I myself use an app on my phone, and you can choose different things, and you can actually layer noises on there. So you can do rain on a windsill, rain on a roof, rain on pavement, rain on plants. There's so many options. I've played with them all. Then there's also waterfalls and creeks and different things. And then you can layer them with more traditional white noise sounds like the fan or wind, things like that. So those are kind of fun to play with. See what works best for you. And then on the app, they have timers as well. So I usually have it on for about an hour and then it shuts off automatically. So something kind of fun to play with if you've never tried a white noise machine, but a fan or things like that work as well. Changing your bedroom environment. So changing the side of the bed you sleep on. Again, light in your room. Most people have light in their room. They just might not, they must be so used to it that they don't realize it anymore. So changing some of those things can help. Again, the noises around you just help change things up and change your sleep patterns, hopefully. Setting a time to worry. So you can keep a pen and pad on your night table. So you can write things down so that you don't think about them right before sleep. So you're not worrying when you're trying to fall asleep. Your mind's not racing. Keeping a journal and your pen next to your bed makes it easy. If it doesn't come naturally to you, you can just start by writing down your worries or your thoughts or just a to-do list. And then you can go to bed and know that it's written down there next to you and you can deal with it tomorrow. So this is also a stress relaxation technique, stress management technique, that you write things down and then you don't have to keep them racing in your head. So just to get it out onto paper. One form of this stress management technique is writing them down, like if it's a to-do list and you look at it tomorrow, or just writing things down, even if they're just worries, writing them down and then not looking at them ever again, because then it could bring up those same feelings. So whether you'd like to reread it or not, it can help, at least help you fall asleep. Okay, deep breathing equals deep sleep. So deep breathing helps initiate that parasympathetic system in our body, which is the opposite of that fight or flight. So it helps us relax, reduces our heart rate. All of that can be triggered just from deep breathing. So you repeat this over and over to help calm your mind. So the best way to do this is to breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, hold for 2 seconds, and then out for your mouth for a count of 8, or however much you're able to do. We usually say 4-2-4 or 4-2-8. So you'd breathe in through your nose, hold, and then out through your mouth. And over again until you are ready for that. You can actually feel your body relaxing. I do that before I go to bed because you never realize how much you're actually holding in your body. I'm very tense even when I go to bed, even if I've been relaxing. So I have to do that to remind my body to relax. And then lastly here is try progressive relaxation or meditation for sleep when you cannot shut off those intrusive thoughts. So this can be helpful even if you're not having intrusive thoughts. You can do this. Progressive relaxation is when you tense up a muscle group in your body and release, and then work. They usually start at the top and work your way down. You can start at your fingertips, work your way. It's just a way to focus on your body and not external things or the thoughts going through your mind. There's a lot of resources online and on your phone, anything like that can walk you through progressive relaxation or meditation. So it's not something you have to learn yourself and think, am I doing this right or anything. There are guided meditations. There are guided progressive relaxation. They will literally tell you what to do and walk you through it so that you don't have to add that worry to your mind, whether you're doing this right or whether it's actually going to help. So those are some helpful things. I use an app called Headspace for guided meditation, and it's great. It walks you through. I use that in my my stress management class as well as a guided meditation practice. Let's see. Okay, so next up we are going to go into identifying your sleep issues. So this is when your sleep diary will come in handy. So if someone would be willing to volunteer for this, we could do this. If we were doing a live class, everyone would have this sheet and we would go through it together as a class. So I'll kind of just walk through it, and then if you'd like to speak up and workshop some of these issues, please feel free. But what you would do, and I can again get this to you, or you could do this on your own at home, is list as much information as you can in each column. So this is called identifying your sleep issue. How we use this form, we actually start with the columns at the bottom. So how I get ready for bed, what my sleep environment looks like, and what problems I have during the night. So this is going to help us pinpoint our underlying issues. So if I keep my bedroom at 80 degrees, watch TV until I fall asleep, snack late at night, and I have sleep apnea, it's unlikely that fixing any one of these problems will result in completely improved sleep. So I'd have these listed, and then I could figure out what I can and cannot change, or what I need to talk to my provider about. So we would start with these columns, how I get ready for bed, and then once you finish these columns, you're going to go through and mark a plus or a minus next to positive or negative things. So things that might help your sleep. So how I get ready for bed, deep breathing, for example, you would put a plus by that because that is a positive way to help you help your sleep. If you're not sure about what it is, you could leave it blank. You could ask me, you could ask someone else, just get some feedback on that, but you'll have pluses and minuses. So here's another example. If you get up multiple times at night to use the restroom, this might be due to a medical condition, or it might be due to drinking too much water before bed. So either way, you could see a doctor to talk about your options and talk about these, but you're going to focus on treating that cause and not the symptom. So you would put problems I have during the night, waking up to go to the bathroom. So then once you talk to someone about these, you would put them under what I can change, what I cannot change, and then you would figure out what your biggest concern is. So that's why we start with those columns. You can figure out all of the things, what are linked, what are connected, and then what your biggest concern would be. So would anyone like to volunteer to talk about any of these things? No problem if you don't. I don't want to force anybody. I would say how I get ready for bed. I do deep breathing every night, so I would give myself a plus for that. I also check my email before I go to bed, pretty much right before I go to bed. So that would definitely be a negative because that's messing up my circadian rhythm because I look at my screen and then try and go to bed immediately. My sleep environment, I do have blackout curtains, so that would be a plus because I don't like any light in my room. However, I have my phone and my watch next to my bed, so those are potential light sources, so that would be a negative. Problems I have during the night, probably the biggest one for me is just waking up and not feeling rested. So I fall asleep okay, I sleep okay, I stay asleep, but I'm still tired in the morning. So the things I can change, again, my phone, my watch, not checking that before bed, and what I cannot change, I don't know. There might be something else going on, so that's when I would talk to my provider and say, more than likely it's either a lack of physical activity or I'm drinking too much caffeine. So that's when those sleep diaries are going to come in handy. I would track everything and see when some days I drink caffeine way too late in the day, and so I know that affects me. Or I've been sitting at my desk and I go home and watch TV and I didn't really move that day. So then you're not going to sleep as well again. So things like that. This is something with your sleep diary you could take to your provider if you think you have issues or you just like to talk about it. Say, I've been tracking this, here's what I've noticed. Because more than likely, same with diabetes or anything, they're going to have you track things before they'll just give you a medicine or give you a cure or, any kind of advice. They're going to say, well, we need to know a bigger picture. We need to know what's going on before I can actually give you advice on where to go next. So some things are easy fixes. Like I said, the blackout curtains could be light, moving your phone, moving your watch. But again, if there's a real issue on there, if you just have concerns, talk to provider about that. So lastly, we are going to test our knowledge here. So if you would like to speak up, please do. If not, I'll just run through just a few little things. Some of these we did talk about directly. Others you might not know exactly. So the first one, spending more time outdoors during the day helps you fall asleep faster. What do you think, true or false?
True.
Yes, it is true. Natural sunlight keeps your circadian rhythm in check, as we've talked about. This helps your body know when it's time to be awake and when you need to sleep. And if you can't get that natural sunlight, artificial bright light may do the trick as well. Research has showed that exposure to bright light during the daytime hours reduced the time it took for people with insomnia to fall asleep by 83%. So getting that vitamin D from sunlight outside or even inside is really going to help. 83%, that's a lot. That's a good cure right there. Next up, having an evening drink or two helps you sleep better. True or false?
False.
Yep. Although you may think alcohol helps you relax, it actually shows have negative effect. So we've talked about this. It alters the production in your melatonin, so that's the reason for that. It just, you might fall asleep faster, but again, messing up your cycles. Getting more exercise will help you sleep. True or false? I think we all know this.
True.
Yes, this is true. Numerous studies have shown that exercising during the day helps you sleep better at night. It's also been shown to reduce symptoms of insomnia, help you lessen the time it takes for you to fall asleep and stay asleep. Working out too close to bedtime, though, within 3 hours or so, because of its stimulating effects, may help you may hurt your ability to fall asleep. So that's something just to consider. But in general, exercise does help you sleep. Sleeping later on the weekends is a great way to catch up on missed sleep. True or false?
False.
Yes. Although it is tempting to catch up on missed sleep on days when you don't have such a busy schedule, you're actually doing yourself more harm than good. Changing those times reduces your sleep quality over time. So you just want to keep that habit and keep that regular schedule. Making changes to your sleep environment may improve sleep quality. True or false?
True.
Yes, it sure is. Various aspects of your sleeping environment may be impacting your sleep quality, so take steps to minimize external noise and reducing the amount of artificial light coming from clocks, computers, and then your thermostat as well, trying to get that cooler temperature if possible. So last up, I just have this little graphic I just wanted to leave on here just for everyone to see how to sleep better. We've talked about a lot of these things. Stick to a sleep schedule, the sleep diary, watching your food and drink, limiting caffeine and alcohol, not eating large meals right before bedtime, and reducing fluids at night if you get up often to go to the bathroom. Moving more during the day, we've talked about that plenty. Managing stress, again, linked, that stress-sleep cycle is so linked. Getting comfortable, so thermostat, environment, general things like that, bedtime ritual, and limiting daytime naps. So a short power nap may recharge you, but if you sleep too much during the day, it does make it harder to sleep at night. So it's that you want to stop after that stage 2. Okay, and that's it for our session today. It is 12:45, so we are right on time. Do you have any questions for me?
Could I get you to please send me copies of the sleep diaries and the identify your sleep issues?
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
I see.
we read a lot on our Kindle,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like a setting we could change so we don't have the strong light. But is that still light that would be enough to irritate our sleeping pattern?
It could be, yes. I know they have those settings now, and if you have one of the paper whites, it's supposed to be better than original artificial light. However, it's still light. Any light in general messes up that circadian rhythm. So, if you've done well with caffeine, if you've done well with other things during the day, it might not be enough to prevent you from falling asleep or going through the cycles appropriately. But it could be. That's something I would want to track on your sleep diary. If you've noticed any issues, I would track that and say, this is how long I was on my Kindle. This is the setting that it was on, and see what else has happened during your day, because if nothing else has changed during your day, then that could be affecting you. So I would just track it. Yeah. Have you noticed anything like that? Have you noticed since you've started using them that your sleep has changed?
Well, no. And I've noticed,
Okay.
like, when we're away from home and possibly not on our Kindle, I still don't notice that it changed
Okay. So
the
that's
other
a good
way.
thing. That's a good thing if you don't notice it. If you have a general lack of energy or something during the day, those are the things I would track as well, even though it might not be caffeine or alcohol or exercise, just how your mood is during the day, because that's all going to be your energy levels, which is, I mean, it's also the food you eat and things, but it could be from your sleep as well. So I would just track it if you're concerned about it. It doesn't sound like it's very concerning, but if you ever become concerned about it, I would just track it for a while, see how it goes.
Do senior citizens um, naturally have a more difficult time sleeping?
Um, I believe so. I do not have statistics on this, so I can gather some of that information and send that to you as well. But I do believe so. Hormone levels are different than they have been your entire life. Your diet is different. Activity levels are different. So although your body, since as you age, your body works a little bit harder, you know, your heart is older, everything's older, you're not resting as well. So I believe so in general, yes. So it's another to stay aware of that, their caffeine and still getting exercise, things like that. Because a lot of things we notice, like we do fall prevention classes for seniors as well, and things that a lot of older adults don't get enough exercise or activity in general because they're worried about getting hurt or falling or things like that, or just think they can't do the same things anymore. So then that starts snowballing into other issues, including how well they sleep at night. So, so yes, I don't think it's only biological factors. I think it's just life changes in general. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for joining today. I have some resources here. Like I said, most everything that I went through was directly from the CDC and other, I'll go over a few other resources. You can see the American Sleep Association on here. I mean, basically you can see Sleep Awareness Project, Sleep Foundation, but then the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, you know, they have their own information on sleep. So everyone has sleep information. There's not a lack of information out there, that's for sure. But the Sleep Foundation, Institute of Neurological Disorders, again, CDC, there's so many different resources, but I will send you the ones that I have used today, and those are the ones we normally use in this course. And they've been proven to work, so hopefully you'll get some use out of them. But that's it for our class today. Thank you for joining. If there are any last questions, I'd love to answer them. Otherwise, again, thanks for coming today. Please call us if you'd like other information on upcoming classes. We do have things scheduled out through September now, and a health brochure will be going out for July through September to all households in the area. So that should be coming out in about 2 weeks. You should be getting that in your mail. So
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate
that's it.
your work on this.
Yes, of course. Thank you for joining.
Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.